a subject which is at my heart, a project which I live with it, having ventured into it over the past 30 years when I came up with my first publication as a book. And it was on peace and the role of early warning. You may wish to research on that. And when I went quickly into this book, I saw some of my comrades having contributed to this. I'm really gratified. Having said that, this early warning in the Horn of Africa, and it is befitting to come from the Horn of Africa, because IGAD, I think, is one of the regional economic communities which first came up with the early warning. And subsequently, other regional economics like ECOWAS, in their distinctive manner, they came up with theirs. The Central African Economic Community came with its own. SADC came with its own in form of organ for security, etc., etc. East African Community, it came with its own. The Great Lakes has its own. The one which is stuttering the Maghreb is yet to have one. But all of these economic communities, the most important thing is that they contribute to the continental early warning system in one way or the other. That's why most of these economic communities are represented in Addis Ababa. So what is happening at a regional level fits in the continental. But early warning is meaningless unless there is early response. We have a case in point what happened in Rwanda, 1994. The same thing, and one could challenge me in South Sudan, 2013, 2016. The writing were coming. Those were warnings. And that meant that if there were early interventions, internally or externally, something that could have perhaps been avoided. Therefore, early warning is a very important tool for averting unnecessary violent conflict. Having said that, prevention is better than cure. It means that this, what early warning have done in the Horn of Africa, emanating from the realities on the ground, are lessons which also can be replicated elsewhere in its specificities. it shouldn't be a Coca-Cola or chloroquine. It's malaria, then for Ebola, COVID-19, no. It has to be specified in the specific material conditions. Having said that, at a continental level, yes, at the level of the AU, we have other structures which takes care of the security situation on the continent. And therefore, we have APSA, African Peace Security Architecture, and also AGA, African Governance Architecture, which are responsible in one or another to take care of that, and they have their early warning machineries. It is the same context that we have substructures like the panel of the wise. We have the FEM-wise. We have the Y-views now, etc., etc. These are developing depending on the material requirements of the day. The traditional threats we had keeps on changing in dynamic manner. In our Organization of African Unity days, terrorism didn't feature. Today is features. The question of unconstitutional changes of governments were not there. Today, unfortunately, seems to be the feature. But we have other areas of which I'm not sure even in this book are well captured. The areas of climate change and at what extent can be drivers of the conflicts. To what extent are we prepared for epidemics? The COVID-19 is a case in point. The Ebola, I remember in those years, sometime we had to emanate from the WHO who were prepared for such epidemics. But these are some of the new challenges in our early warning systems, which we can't avoid. We have to respond to them. The fact that we have this book, and is the first kind, we should appreciate for IGAD and the brain behind its contribution and publication. It is the view of African Union that more needs to be done, and as IGAD poses a challenge to other economic communities to come forward with such a publication. But that is not enough. What is contained here, the huge challenge comes to implementation. And there is a tendency of a pretext of funding. There are issues which don't need funding. The political will is very much required. The trust and the confidence is very much required. And that can also be applied in South Sudan as we implement the Agreement 2018. In conclusion, I would challenge the authors and the publishers of this book, first, to distribute it as widely as possible. Secondly, they should find their way to translate into their local languages so that it reaches the common man on the ground, who is important in conflict prevention and could be a source of early warning system. I thank you.